woman needing alone time, and you need to just leave them alone to think and think in their man cave, and then they will come out and then communicate to you. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of INTJ and INFP Coffee. Today we have a kind of an exploratory episode. It's inspired by kind of male and female relationship and love, needs, communication styles, stereotypes. We are hypothesizing how that may be more of a judger versus perceiver thing rather than a male versus female thing. And we wanted to just explore that and see what you guys think.
Yeah.
This video was kind of inspired by me reading this book called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. The book basically talks about 12 love needs that they attribute 6 to Mars and 6 to Venus. And I really related to the Venus ones, which I'm hypothesizing is perceiving. And I think you were saying you kind of related to the judging ones, and like we know this man who like more related to the perceiving ones.
Right.
And he's a perceiver, so we're like, oh, maybe it's more of a J versus P instead of a man versus woman thing. Okay, but anyway, for the Mars one, they wrote they need trust, encouragement, admiration, appreciation, approval, and acceptance. And for Venus, it was caring, reassurance, devotion, respect, validation, and understanding. The blog that wrote about this book made an interesting point that besides trust and caring, everything else was basically like a synonym. So like encouragement and reassurance are kind of like synonyms. Approval and validation, that's like kind of a more obvious synonym. And acceptance and understanding, like they're, maybe it's like a bit harder to an I user, but to SI, like the words are different, but they're really similar. The conclusion I came up with is that the female side, which I have correlated with the perceiving side, seems to be, I guess, more passive or integrative to the individual. It's almost like the individual is in a vacuum. Because when you validate someone, you're basically saying their feelings and reactions are justified or correct, but correct according to whom? To the world, right? Because if you're a perceiver, it means you use introverted judging. So you have JI, and you just want to make a system in which you're making the right decisions and not necessarily like influencing the world, but just knowing that you're correct within yourself. And that really fits with the whole like validation thing, like being validated and being understood. Yeah, actually, I don't know if women are more likely to do this, but it does seem like perceivers,
right,
just introverted judging rather than extroverted judging would seem to do this. So on the flip side, it seems like the Mars side or the man side, which I have correlated with judging, or JE, is more transferative. Like the positive feelings are going from one person to the other person. For example, instead of validation, they put approval, and approval just makes me think of like a superior to an inferior, or like just from one person to the other person saying like, here's a badge of approval, or saying very straightforwardly that, hey, I approve of you. JE is very outwardly orientated, like what Michael Pierce was saying, like the JE people are aggressive towards their external environment and passive or observational towards their internal environment. I just think these transferative words just seem to fit that mood a bit better. Okay, I'm gonna let Alex say something before I move on to my next
this is really good. Actually, I think going into this, I'm like, I definitely relate to some of like the men one and some of the women one. And now I'm thinking like maybe for you, it's a little bit more obvious because you have JI first and JE last.
Okay.
But I think like how I would act in a relationship is maybe more according to like the men or the Mars stereotype. But I think I would want like some of both, because I think my FI does want like validation and understanding, but I think my TE wants like, what is it? Acceptance and kind of like trust, just for to me to do the TE things.
Oh, that actually makes so much sense. Yeah, oh man, it makes so much sense in terms of TE and FI, and I wonder if it makes sense in FE and TI. Yeah. Probably, right? I mean,
I don't know. That's one thing when I was reading this, I was like, it kind of is a little bit more geared towards like TJs and FPs almost in a sense. But I wonder, you guys can let us know.
Let us know. Yeah, the next point was kind of like, they were saying that all of these are basically synonyms, but the one that's antonyms, the complete opposite meanings, is the trust and caring. Within a relationship, when you trust someone, it almost plays off as you don't care, because you will probably ask less questions, to see what they're up to. Not because you don't care, but because you trust them to just be doing like what they need to be doing in the first place.
Just give them free reign to like do what they need to do, right?
Whereas for caring, I would think the person would kind of check up on you often to make sure that you're not like dead in a ditch somewhere. I thought this was like, wow, because I remember talking to you about like your greatest fear or something in some video, and you were saying, oh, like you need to be like in control of your world or be independent or something. Yeah, I think JE needs to feel in control of the world or of their environment. I think if someone doesn't trust them to do that, then that's like one evidence against them trusting themselves to do it. And it could be like really scary. I think JI, this is like really hard to not sound like really bad. I think maybe being more passive towards the external environment and being more aggressive towards our internal structuring, it just leaves us maybe a bit more vulnerable, and it just kind of feels like things are happening to us in the world. It's almost like, not to sound so victimized, but it's like things are happening, and we almost like need someone to be like that solid center. But also I wrote like maybe another explanation is JI just needs to have meaning, and I think part of having meaning is to be cared about. I wrote in brackets needs to be important, question mark.
Right.
It's like needing to be in control so that things can go your way, that you can make things go your way, versus having life be meaningful because you're important, or just being vulnerable to the external environment and having someone care about you so you don't like die. These are all question marks. That's just my little theory about the trust and caring part.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because for me, I think trust was the one that I felt I had the strongest need for on the Mars side. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I think for my TE, and I feel like probably a lot of men might not appreciate this, partially because of MBTI and partially also because of like the male-female socialization, but I feel like I would put a lot of like effort into like making sure that the relationship is working as it should, and maybe finding like the proper tools for us to use if we're like having a conflict or something like that, and like providing maybe direction for growth, like maybe even personally, but also like as a relationship. So I think, yeah, there would be a lot of like intentional direction that I would be asking him to follow my lead.
So you need him to trust that you are going in a right direction.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for that, I definitely need that more so than... I probably actually wouldn't want caring in the way that... See...
Oh, that's so interesting. What? Wait. Oh, I need to make an interjection that we don't really mean trust in terms of like being suspicious or not. That you're... I don't think I mean like... Or it means trust in terms of like trusting the person to be honest. It's more like trusting that they are doing the right thing.
Or like trusting them to let them take actions maybe on behalf of like both of them.
Just like trusting them as a person, not necessarily trusting that they're honest in the relationship, like that jealousy, suspicion thing. Right. Yeah, I think this trust is about more than that. Yeah. I think the relationship trust is something that everyone needs. Yeah, basically.
Definitely.
What I'm saying, interjection over.
Okay.
Yes. My inline map is becoming stronger after hanging out more with Alex.
So good. No, it helps when you define the terms, because to an NI user, I look at these lists and I'm like I could probably clump them into groups and most of them are kind of the same meaning to me rather. So when you explain it, it makes sense. Like, I think when someone tries to care for me, like it feels like oppressive to me. Like when someone tries to do things for me, I'm like, no, I can do these things myself.
Whoa, that's so interesting.
But the validation and understanding is something that my FI really, really needs too. So maybe if you're like FI Dom and maybe TI Dom, I'm not sure how this necessarily relates to the TI FE axis, you'll relate more to the Venus. And if you're TE and potentially FE Dom, you'll relate more to the Mars. But then if you're perceiving lead and you have your two judging axes in the middle, maybe you're like half a little bit.
Oh, that's so interesting. Hold on, like the thing that you said about like, providing direction and solutions and stuff, like relationship trajectory.
Right.
Okay, that's like I think that's exactly what my mom provides to my dad, and she's like a FE dominant, which makes her a JE lead, and him being a TI lead who just has to... Yeah, I think in their relationship, he did just trust her. Like a lot of big decisions, like moving to Canada was like her decision, and yeah. So it just fits with what you said that you wanted. It was like what my mom did.
Right.
Yeah, I see this with a lot of FJ women who just seem to be more like directive in the relationship and therefore maybe leaning more to this Mars side. So further solidifying my theory. No, I'm kidding. I gotta be more open. This is the thing with like a J lead. I think sometimes we argue towards the theory that we wanted to have instead of being more open to like new information.
No, I think there is something to this. Yeah, and it would be cool if you guys let us know what you think about it too, because yeah, to me it does make a little bit more sense with TE and FI, maybe because there's also some stereotypes towards like feeling, maybe needing more of this kind of emotional support, and thinking needing trust in its like logical system or something like that. So when you switch it, maybe there's a little bit of confusion, but the example of your parents makes sense.
Actually, yeah, you would think that when you're doing a male-female stereotypes thing, the binary would be thinking versus feeling, not judging versus perceiving. But I think, yeah, there might be something to this. Honestly, I'm trying to get into the head of a TI person, so tell me if this is wrong, but honestly, I think TI and I think acceptance, I think that's almost insulting. I feel like, no, just imagine an INTP and saying to an INTP, I accept you. It's almost like insulting. It's like, I don't need you to accept me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like a TI person is just in their own little world. They need to know that they're right in the world, not right by a person. So understanding, I can see a TI person going for understanding. But no, tell me if I'm not personally offended by acceptance, but I just somehow all of a sudden imagine an INTP person in an office and having their manager go like, oh, I accept you, I approve of your work, and then INTP going like, psh, like unnecessary.
Right. Oh, okay. I guess this was another thing that maybe supported the Mars being associated with J's who have PI and Venus being associated with P's who have PE. So another one of the points in the books was that men need time to internalize thoughts before communicating.
I forgot about that
and
part.
that women need to just like do it like immediately or like right there with the other person. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so like PI with like NI and SI needing to like be totally immersed internally in order to like process thoughts, and PEs need to like bounce it off of someone else and externalize their thoughts in order to kind of like see where they're going or like to flesh them out, right?
Oh man, I like totally honed into this one chapter of like the love styles. But yeah, there's this whole other chapter of like, oh, men needing alone time, and you need to just leave them alone to think and think in their man cave, and then they will come out and then communicate to you. I'm like, yeah, that is so much more of an introverted perception thing that just needs to gather and structure their thoughts before expressing, whereas a PE person, which I guess we conflated with the Venus, would be just talking as they come, as the thoughts come.
And interestingly, I think this one would be more towards, I guess, IJs more strongly identifying with the men in this scenario because they lead with that introverted perception, and then the EPs more strongly identifying with the Venus. But yeah, for you guys, it might be a little bit more nuanced because you do have NE, but like you, for example, lead with FI, so you might also need some of that internal processing, so it might be a little bit more in a gray area.
Also, the interesting thing is like, I think J versus P, it's pretty even between men and women. So it's like, how did this stereotype even happen, you know?
That's because it's like socializing, I think. I think men are more socialized to be this way, and women are more socialized to be that way, perhaps. Right. I mean, this is an older book, right? So it could be back when these sort of gender norms were a little bit more commonplace in society.
When I was reading it, I'm like, yeah, this, I can relate to the P or Venus side. And I'm reading it, I'm like, yeah, this really rings true based on the people I know in my life, but they don't always fall into the male-female. It just seems like the binary is kind of there, but it might not be like a gender binary.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh, yay. Thanks for joining us on that tangential journey.
Yeah. And I guess this one, we kind of only have maybe a few data points to work with, and we're both on the TE-FI axis. So yes, FE, TI users, please chime in and tell us like if you identify with these, I guess, two different kind of dichotomies. Yeah, it'd be super interesting to hear from you guys. And if you guys want to get typed, we offer typing services based on objective criteria, which you can check out at cognitiveaid.com. And if you want to support our channel, you can check out our Patreon page where we offer exclusive perks. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye! Thanks for watching!